Hey everyone, it's Lindsay Baker. I'm so excited. I'm here with Simone Reyes, renowned activist, animal rights activist, country music singer, amazing activist. But she's here today to talk about an important bill that you must support, AB416, which is going to help end deforestation and land degradation. Oh, go ahead, Simone, you take it.
Well, for anybody that might not know, I work with Judy Mancuso, and we have a great board that includes Maggie Q and Diane Keaton and a whole bunch of amazing people. And Nick Sackett obviously works with us as well. And we are social compassion and legislation. And I think the core group of us have been on the streets as activists for a really long time. And that's wonderful. I love a good protest. I still protest whenever I can. Mm-hmm. But I think once you've been on the streets for so long and you're basically begging people to do what's right, we kind of got to the point where we were tired and we wanted to legislate compassion. We wanted to legislate kindness, so that if you don't do right by animals, you get fined or you go to jail. And so that's why doing things with social compassion is so important for me, because I think that bills, legislation, law is really the way to protect animals in the highest level. So right now, it's very hard, I should let everybody know, to get bills that protect animals through each committee until you get to the governor's desk, because there are certainly a strong number of animal rights activists that fight for animals every day. But boy, oh boy, when you start, messing with profit, which is what a lot of animal abusers believe that you are doing, even though we constantly give them alternative ways to make money that don't involve blood, they come out in force, and they have a lot of money and they have a lot of power. And so when we finally are able to claw and scratch our way to the governor's desk, to even think that he's not going to sign it is horrific. And right now, with the bill that you were just discussing, the Deforestation Free Procurement Act, that was introduced by the wonderful Assembly Member Ash Kalra. Obviously, we introduced it as well with Friends of the Earth and the National Resource Defense Council and Peace for Animals. We did this in answer to climate change and, of course, animals, indigenous people. We did it in answer to saying, listen, California, is the leader in legislation for the environment, for compassion. And so we got this bill together, which basically, if he signs it, California would become the very first in the nation to require state procurement contracts. So what that really means is, it's kind of fancy language for, it would certify that operations and supply chains are not contributing to tropical deforestation or intact forest loss. So what that means is all state contracts involving things like soy and palm oil and timber and paper, pulp and cattle and rubber, all of these things, right? They would require that contractors maintain a no deforestation, no peat, no exploitation policy, and provide evidence that their operations are not linked to forest destruction or abuses of the indigenous people's rights. It's a win-win for California, and it's a win-win for the environment and for the animals. It's sitting on his desk. He has not signed it. That is scary.
So what would be one question that comes to mind for me would be, like, are there alternative? I understand, because I used to teach a class about the circular economy and how we're trying to move towards that. But are there alternative sources for these suppliers, for these manufacturers and companies to use, so to make this transition? And are you giving them a certain amount of time to transition? And is that possibly why he's not signing it? Because obviously pressures, but is there something in place, a plan that would?
Typically change is scary in our personal lives and in business.
Right.
It might take a little bit more effort right? A small amount to actually get these, the paper and the pulp and the timber. They are out there. The alternatives are out there. And what is holding people up is, oh, we don't want to change. It's working, it's working for us. It might be working for the person who's trying to rape the environment, but it's not working for future generations who are now in a climate crisis that could easily end life on this planet as we know it. So, and Gavin, I must say, the governor has been incredible with climate change. He's a leader in climate change. It makes no sense that he won't sign this bill. So the best thing to do is, if you're on social media, tag him, please, Governor Newsom, please sign this bill, or just go to Social Compassion and Legislation, and that will give you every tool you need to send your letters and the tweets that you can copy. You can even go to my Twitter at Simone Reyes. I have all those tweets up. Just retweet it. Go to Social Compassion and Legislation's Twitter, retweet what they have, and then you can say that you did something to try to protect animals and this planet. And we truly, truly, truly are looking to Governor Newsom to be a leader in this particular way, because all of his incredible plans for California and the money that he's throwing behind it doesn't particularly include this. So we need this bill.
Yeah, it's really important. And what we're going to do, which I thought I had it in my cache here, but I will put it up in comments. You had sent me a blurb of what exactly to tweet and who to tweet, and I'm gonna lock that at the top.
Oh, good.
At the top of the post for everyone, so they can find that. Yeah, that's it's really important. And we just voted to keep him in, so he better do what we asked him to do now.
Oh boy, I felt like I was working for the man.
Yeah, exactly.
He was really pushing it. Yeah, for so many reasons. Yeah.
And there really just still needs to be education, because I'm sure all these businesses have families, they have children, they have grandchildren. And the fact that climate change has become such the forefront issue right now in every single sector, in every part of our society, the change has to happen. I don't know why these people are not.
I mean, nothing will really matter. It won't matter how much we save in taxes if we're all dead. So it's the most important thing. It's sort of like when you're in the plane and they say, if there's a drop in cabin pressure, right, put on your mask first before you try to help your neighbor or your child. We have to protect our environment first, or else we're not going to have a world to live in. Our children are not going to be able to inherit anything that's sustainable. It's terrifying.
That's so true. I think would be really interesting. And one of the things that you do so well is you really inspire people that want to become activists are activists for animals, or really any social cause, to take action. You've had such an amazing career. You're still so young, but you've had such an amazing career so far. I do want to show a couple clips here of your, let's start off with your TED Talks. I have a little clip here, so I'll play clip 1.
Okay.
Lily Tomlin once said, "Somebody should do something about that." But then I realized I am somebody. I had my first aha, I am somebody moment when I was walking down the street in my native New York City and happened upon what I can only describe as a pulsating, brown, furry, and yet kind of slimy little ball at my feet that was in grave danger of being smashed to bits by a very angry sanitation worker with a very large shovel. I had no idea what this little alien thing was, but instinctively I threw myself on top of it, screaming, "No, no, 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 no! I'll take it." And of course, the guy thought I was totally nuts, but I did. I took this little ball, and I put it in a box, and I took it to Central Park, and I sat there staring at it for a couple of hours, not knowing what to do. And all of a sudden, the box started to move, and the flaps on the top of the box opened, and not one, but two beautiful bats flew out over my head and into the night sky. Apparently what had happened, or it's the best guess of the experts, is that two bats had become stuck together in the throes of passion and fallen from a rooftop somewhere and landed at my feet. So for me, I didn't know what this little thing was, but it was pulsating, right? So that meant it must have had a pulse, which would mean probably a heartbeat, which would mean it could suffer, and that just wasn't going to happen on my watch. So I don't know what makes some people watchers and other people doers. I don't know what plants a seed that blossoms into a calling. I do know that for me, it's a compulsion to speak for those that cannot speak for themselves. Uncomfortable though it may be, for somebody who never raised her hand in class, hated to be called on to read aloud, and was described by every teacher as painfully shy. I guess something in me must have connected to those that seemed invisible and voiceless. Perhaps something in me saw myself as one of them, needing rescue and a voice. All I know is I have no choice in the matter anymore. I was born for this, and I raise my hand for animals every chance I get.
Sorry for that odd cut there. Wow. TEDx talk. I mean, wow. How did you get from loving animals and seeing a little fairy ball to taking your activism to another level and doing TED Talks and so many other things that we're going to see? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
You know, I grew up like most animal rights activists, being unconscious of, meat, milk, cheese, things like that. But I was very conscious of animals that I would see in front of me. I would go to the zoo and say, this feels wrong. There's something wrong here. I would go to aquariums and say the same thing. I would see the carriage horses in Central Park. I'm from New York, and say, this seems abusive. And I think that children innately have that ability to, they may not understand its animal rights. They may not understand that, but there's something that I think in children that understand when they see pain or suffering. And that was how it was for me. I remember my friends and I started the I Love Animals Club when we were in the 7th grade.
Wow.
And at the time, we were raising money for the Humane Society for dogs and cats. But once I got into my 20s, I started to become aware, because of PETA, what was on my plate and how it got there. And I was pushed, something inside of me was pushed to try to make a difference. And at that time, we didn't have internet. We had like phone trees. We didn't have any way to communicate or find each other. I called the number for people for the ethical treatment of animals. They connected me with a very, 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 very aggressive, very active group called Activists for Animals in New York. My very first protest, I showed up wearing leather shoes. It was against fur. And I had no idea really what I was doing, except that, I saw, some horrific footage of baby seals being clubbed to death in Canada. And I wanted to try to change that because New York had so many people wearing fur all the time. And the first thing we did was I showed up there, I had on my leather shoes, as I said, and they said, well, what are we going to do? And they handed me a poster and they said, we're going to walk around New York City and we're going to yell and shame everybody who's wearing a fur coat. And that was my introduction to the movement. So instead of sort of starting off small and quietly, I actually started off extremely aggressively with the group that I was with. and had to learn over the years to dial it back a little bit versus the other way, which I think is how some people end up in the movement. They sort of quietly read books and send emails or whatever. But it gave me a huge, incredible respect for every single type of activism. So whether you are a couch potato activist who likes to send emails to your legislators, whether you are somebody who likes to respectfully but loudly confront people who are unconscious, I have respect for all of it. I've always said that every movement needs a Martin Luther King and a Malcolm X. And I think that most of us sort of fall somewhere in the middle. But I've gotten arrested, in planned civil disobediences, and have seen that can be a good tool. And I have also very gently and quietly and methodically tried to get my point across to people that I understood could only digest it in that way. So I think it's I have respect for every single type of activism, as long as it doesn't hit below the belt, as long as there's no violence involved, and as long as you always stick to the message.
That's amazing. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you got to do the TEDx talk, or how were you asked to do that? How did that all come about?
Yeah, the TEDx talk, I have to say, there was 2 times in my life where I said to myself, that was amazing. I'll never do that again. Because it was so hard. One was the TEDx talk, and the other one was when I took one of those classes when you do a trapeze, and then you have to let go and let somebody else catch you midair. That was terrifying. As I was up there, swinging, high above the buildings or whatever, I was like, I'm crazy right now. This is terrible. And as soon as I did the catch, you let go and the other guy catches you and you're sort of swinging. I was like, I did that. I can put that off, off my bucket list, and I'll never do that again. That's how I felt with TEDx. It was very hard. They have a lot of rules. I couldn't show a lot of the graphic photos that I think can be very helpful when you're trying to show people the other side of, animal agriculture and things like that. There's no teleprompter. There's no notes. You are just out there in front of a live audience, and you get one chance. And if you screw it up, then you screw it up. And it was, and you can only speak for a certain amount of time, or else they cut you off. So it was stressful, to say the least. But I got through it, and it was, it's a proud moment for me just to have gotten through it, and to see how many views that TEDx talks get. Like, they get a lot of views, and I've had people say to me, I wasn't vegan, I watched your TED talk, and now I'm vegan. And for me, that's what it's all about, right? That's why we do what we do,
I saw the audience, and I want to play the second TED Talk clip right now, but I saw the audience reaction to you. The majority, of course, were not vegan. So was this like the first time they were hearing this kind of thing?
I think so. I love TEDx. I love listening to all. I think it's an incredible medium. And when I left there, people stopped me, and they were like, they were moved. They tapped into something that I don't think that they tapped into before. And I think it was also because, when I talk about animals, I have a lot of PTSD from, as most of us do. I went to Taiji, Japan. I was there watching the dolphin drives, one of the most horrific things that's ever happened in our history that continues to go on today. I've been invited into a slaughterhouse. I've seen what that looks like. And when you talk about those things, you get emotional, you can't help it. And when people see that, I think it's not as comfortable for the person who's talking about it, but it connects people to those emotions. And once you hit somebody in the heart with something, you tell the animal's stories, you show them a picture. One of the most powerful images I think that exists out there is just the eyes of a cow right before she's slaughtered. You know, if you get people in that place and they go vegan, they're never going back.
That's true. It's true. It's an awakening, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's watch the second clip.
Okay.
For me, sometimes my activism is loud and it's aggressive and it's blaring through megaphones outside of slaughterhouses. But at other times, it's in soft, measured tones, speaking about orcas and dolphins in captivity to little children entering SeaWorld. And sometimes, yeah, my message goes viral, with me being led away from the scene in handcuffs. I believe that activism starts as a whisper in our soul, a voice way down deep inside, almost like intuition, that presents itself as an unmistakable knowing that nudges us to look our conscience dead in the eye and ask ourselves the tough questions, such as, is this moral? Is this the right choice for me? Can I sleep at night knowing what I know now? Am I living my truth? And oftentimes the answers, they will surprise us. A revolution begins with an idea, a truth in ourselves that we cannot deny and feel compelled to spread, regardless of the fact that, yeah, it might isolate us from those close to us. It might take our safety, our freedom, and put them at risk. It can drive us to our darkest depths of despair and break our hearts. But it's worth it. Oh man, is it worth it? Because a revolution brings about change whose time has come, and we are at a tipping point of this revolution that begins and builds with each of us recognizing what we know is true in the most sacred places of our hearts and acting on it. For me, giving these animals a voice, these choiceless animals, helps illuminate these dark, cold, barren enclosures that ring out with cries of pain, loneliness, and torture, voices begging to be seen, to be recognized, to know that they are not alone and that, yes, they are heard. And maybe somehow this makes me feel less alone, acting on behalf of these animals that I will never meet, but fight for every day, has connected me to a global cry for justice that has moved mountains for other social justice movements. It has taken me from feeling like a powerless individual to an important, proactive part of the wheel that is a driving force toward making this world a kinder and gentler and more sustainable place to live.
Yeah, you know, the question that came up before, and I wanted to have you discuss this a little bit before I forget again, like people that are feeling those feelings and their truth starts to awaken in them, how do they get started? Like you said, you were reluctant, a little afraid possibly, you know, what to do. And it's much easier now, that's the good news. But can you kind of talk about that, like where to begin and
Well, I hate to say it, but if you really want to be part of this movement, it has to be where you really educate yourself. And the way to educate yourself is to watch the really, really hard, heartbreaking, insanely painful images that are and footage that is available. Sean Munson's Earthlings. Start there. Because once you start with a movie, a documentary like that, it gives you the foundation so that you are unshakable. Once people, as you said, see these images, you can't unsee them. Once you arm yourself with what really happens, once you're led through the back door of pretty much every industry that we take for granted as being humane, right? Once you are let in through that door, through the animal rights movement, you can't be able to express what people are seeing with words. They need to actually see the images, the footage. They need to look at the undercover investigations. They need to see that, because once they start there, then they have their foundation laid out. Then there's no argument that they can lose. I'm a huge activist when it comes to green living, and when it comes to the environment, and when it comes to healthy, clean living, which of course we know is veganism. But when you concentrate only on those things, only on, listen, you're not gonna, chances are you're gonna lower your rate of getting, being obese or hypertension or heart disease or cancer, whatever it is. If you tell people that might sway some people, but they can come at you with all these, crazy, studies that were done here or there. They can come at you with a million different reasons why, no, veganism isn't the most healthy thing, even though we know that it is. Or, oh, the environment can 100 years, which we know that it can't. Oh, climate change is a hoax, whatever. They can always debate with you. But when you show them a picture or show them a footage of an animal screaming and fighting for her life or his life when he does not want to die, there's nothing somebody can say to that, when we know that there are alternatives to meat and dairy that are healthier for us, better for the planet. They lose that argument. So arm yourself as hard as it is with these undercover investigations that are all over. Mercy for Animals, Farm Sanctuary, they all have them. Certainly PETA is a great starting point. I always say I was raised on PETA. So, and I think you really need to appreciate, the basic, core of what animal rights is, which is that we might be different, but we are all the same in terms of rights. A pig is a rat, is a boy, right? It's a longer, but that's basically what animal rights is. And so again, you can never lose an argument if you stay on message of what is truly happening in the world right now behind closed doors to animals.
Right. As you say, speak your truth. I do want to remind people again why you came on today specifically to talk about the bill. So I'm going to bring up that slide again. And if you could, for the people that just came on, maybe talk about it again, why it's so important.
So right now we have a bill sitting on Governor Newsom's desk here in California. And it is really important because basically what it will do is it will make sure that all state contracts involving commodities like palm oil, which of course we've heard so much about and how detrimental it is, timber, paper, rubber, cattle, soy, all of it. And they would require contractors to maintain a no deforestation, no peat, no exploitation policy, and provide evidence that their operations are not linked to forest destruction or abuses of indigenous people's rights. Of course, we threw cattle in there. We do not want anybody eating animals for any reason whatsoever. But again, when we deal with legislation, we have to start with what is digestible for the governor to sign off on. And if you just go, I love that Lindsay is putting that on there. And if you just go to Twitter or Instagram and you tag Governor Newsom, and you say, please, please, please sign the Deforestation Free Procurement Act introduced by Al Cholera and Social Compassion Legislation and Friends of the Earth and the National Resource Defense Council and Peace for Animals, we will applaud you. And all the links are right there. So that's great.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So speaking about amazing, we want to move on. And I think the next thing we can talk about is your career as a country singer. And you have not only sing, you have written songs, and you have produced your own music videos. You've helped produce your own, or worked on it. Very, very hands-on, I should say.
That's my favorite part, actually. Even more, I like that even more than singing. And I have this incredible frontman media that I work with, and we brainstorm all the time, Carrie and I, and that's the most fun. And so pandemic has been really hard for so many reasons, but I haven't been able to safely do a music video yet. So we're trying to figure out a way to do that, so I won't have to worry at all about any exposure. But yeah, country music, you know, a native New Yorker, it's not typically what you would think. Oh, of course, you know, I grew up on country music, but I did grow up on country music, and my house, my apartment in Greenwich Village was very musical, and you know, Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty and Eddie Rabbitt, who is from New York. So there, you don't have to, you know, be born in the South to be a country music singer or performer. There's actually, you know, Shania Twain is from Canada, and there's a lot. There's Brett Young is from Orange County out here. So there's a lot of different places you can come from. But for me, I never really had the time to concentrate on doing music. I would only do it for fun. And now I'm able to, like, I'm having such a good time. I'm able to record. I'm actually recording music out of my house. Through, with Al Bonham, who's my producer. We just do it. I have a little setup downstairs, and I'm able to do it without even seeing him. Just completely COVID safe, which is crazy. I can't believe I can make records from my living room. You know, it's crazy.
The technology is just extraordinary now. And it just, like you said, if you're a creative person and you can use your creativity to get a message out. Let's watch one of your videos right now.
Didn't take too long for me to pick up all my stuff. Had to make it short and sweet, 'cause I knew that it'd be tough. When I get where I'm going, I'm sure I'm gonna find I'll be a long time leaving what I left behind. I'll be a long time letting go of his embrace, and a long time forgetting the tears on his face. It might take forever to get him off of my mind. I'll be a long time leaving what I left behind.
Oh, wow. That really
I just want to say the horns behind me, right in the description, it tells you where to get them made out of, sustainable material, not coming from a cow. So
good point to bring out. Good point to bring out. But I just want to say it was moving, because you can use that metaphor for almost anything when it's time for you to move on. And it is, like you say, it's heartbreaking. It's a huge struggle within, but you see at the end she's victorious, like she's moving on to something better, throws away the veil, and finally.
Yes, I mean, it's like everybody's like, how did you leave him? He seems like such a nice guy.
I know, he was
clearly he had some problems, but that was filmed at Happy Hen Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. And for some reason, when I envisioned it, I saw her leaving with her wedding dress on, because she couldn't fit it in her suitcase, but also with her chicken, her companion animal chicken.
Yeah, this chicken got rescued too. It wasn't left behind. I love that part too. Yeah. So I want to talk about, how you learned to do all these amazing things. Did it have something to do with working with Russell Simmons and that whole part of your life? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
When you work for somebody like Russell Simmons, who is the godfather of hip hop, you have very little time to do anything else except work for him. It was a 24-hour job. And it was very exciting, certainly, because I was able to see, Public Enemy and the Beastie Boys, who are friends of mine, and LL Cool J. I mean, just to see everybody coming up from when we were all just kids hanging out together, in the village, was very exciting. But Russell has his hand in so many businesses, from financial services to Def Comedy Jam and Def Poetry Jam, where he won the Tony for, and so many different things, that I was really, really busy for most of my adult life. And I say that because I started as a teenager there, then I became an adult, and I was like, wow, this is what working really is. This is a 24-hour thing. And so I always was a singer. I always wanted to sing, but there with the activism, and I was a huge on the street activist for many, many years. I still am. There was no time to do music, to have time for that, to promote music, to do live shows, none of it. So that all went on the back burner. And then Russell had some challenges in the last couple of years, and that opened up time for me to sort of look at things that I wanted to do. And music was, right there. It's like activism and music were two things that I wanted to continue doing, and open up the music a lot more, so it wasn't just singing in my shower.
Now, was he, now, of course, Russell is vegan. Was he vegan, or did you veganize him?
No, I was vegan since the 90s. And so I was vegan before almost anybody that I knew in my life at all. I think that it was a combination. I never take credit for turning Russell vegan, though, even though when you walked into my office, it was like donated fur coats that were dripping in blood. I was very aggressive back then, and slaughterhouse pictures everywhere. Everybody would walk in with, sort of with their hand, over their eyes, like, oh God, let me give you this the schedule, and not look, because it was so aggressive. And I always had pigeons in my office that were recovering from some injury or another. So he certainly was exposed to that. But he also became a devout yogi, and he studied at a vegan-run animal rights yoga center called Jivamukti in New York. And I always used to say that when he was in deep meditation there, that they were hypnotizing him, don't eat animals, breathe in. And his longtime, one of his best friends in the world, Glenn E. Friedman, who's a huge hip hop and skating world photographer, he was vegan way before I was. So he had a lot of influences sort of coming at him from everywhere. And then finally he read Diet for a New America. And I think it was the combination of all of us sort of hitting him from different ways. And then once he went vegan, he became a huge animal rights activist and spoke out for animals, and still does.
Wow, I was just looking at the time. We are like almost 2/4 through, and I just want to play the other video. And there's so many questions I have for you. Maybe I'll have to come back again. Let's play the other one, the other music video.
You could have told me, but you had nothing good to say, nothing to show me, no words to make me stay. You treated me recklessly, made me feel lonely. That's what Patsy Cline would say. She'd call me crazy for living my life this way, for feeling lonely and blue. That's what she'd do. She'd call me crazy. She'd call me crazy. I saw you, your eyes look just the same. You said you loved me, the right words somehow came. You said you needed me, said you were sorry. What Patsy Cline would say. She'd call me crazy for living my life this way, for feeling lonely and blue. That's what she'd do. She'd call me crazy. She'd call me crazy. Patsy Cline would say. She'd call me crazy for living my life this way, for feeling lonely and blue. That's what she'd do. She'd call me crazy. She'd call me crazy. She'd call me crazy.
Whoa, that just is amazing, and just made me think of all the military families, and just really Very touching.
Yeah. And actually, my leading man, Bradley.
Again, I can taste it now.
Yes, he's actually ex-military vet. So it was so fitting, you know, he used all of his old pictures and his uniform. It was, yeah. And that was all shot right around here, right in the canyon, you know.
And you just plan that whole thing out. Do you storyboard them out when you do your?
No, I storyboard them out. Yes, I do. And they just sort of come to me. I knew that I wanted this song to be about loss and about the military. You know, I think that we hear so much about, you know, obviously the deaths that happen, you know, with our military, but we don't really see the stories of those left behind as much, the military widows and the girlfriends and the fiancés and things like that. And I wanted to just sort of show their story as well, because they also make the ultimate sacrifice, you know.
Very true. Well, before we run out of time, I do want to show some of your animal rights work, and there's a lot of familiar faces. We'll see Jane Mitchell in there and other celebrities, etc. So let's jump in and take a look.
Okay.
For me,
Simone Reyes, animal rights activist, and my dear friend, you have just returned from Japan. You also saw what was happening to these dolphins. Describe what you saw and how it felt to you.
Driving families of dolphins into the killing cove, panicking them, terrorizing them, and then brutally butchering them to death in a long and painful process. The other so-called lucky ones get a life of enslavement. Here you have a small baby dolphin taken away, kidnapped, ripped away from her mother, from the only home that she has ever known or he has ever known, manhandled, tortured, and then murdered, let's call it what it is, and then thrown away like yesterday's trash on the beach. Taiji is for the first time really in the spotlight.
Right now I'm standing at the cove. There's a family of pilot whales behind me, waiting to be killed in the morning.
That you cannot support any amusement park and think that you're not slashing open a dolphin in Taiji.
Yeah, it might isolate us from those close to us. It might take our safety, our freedom, and put them at risk. It can drive us to our darkest depths of despair and break our hearts. But it's worth it. Oh man, is it worth it.
The feeling that a human gets from killing an animal, that's hard for most of my viewers.
It's the thrill of the kill. It's the thrill of the kill.
Well, talk to me about that.
No, it isn't.
What is it?
No, it's veganism is a choice, but being an omnivore is who we are. It is by nature. If your ancestors were not hunters, you would not be here today, and that is an immutable, inviolable, incontrovertible fact.
With all due respect, I do not think that we can use the word choice. Give the animals a choice.
I honestly had an agenda. I'm not, embarrassed to say it.
Right.
I want to turn people vegan. I want people to stop wearing fur. I want people to stop eating meat.
To us, we have no such right.
Cherie Comrie said, "Feminism is the radical notion that women are human beings." Well, if that's the case, then veganism is the radical notion that animals are sentient beings.
We did manage, for at least on 3 different occasions throughout the parade route, to stop the SeaWorld float, and we spent New Year's Day in prison, and we had a great time.
Just amazing, amazing, amazing. Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start. You've done so much. You've been so many places. What would you like people to take away from watching this and watching what you've done so far as an activist?
I mean, we all have our place in this movement. I urge everybody who's ever said to themselves, this feels wrong, when they see an animal being abused, to be able to look themselves in the mirror, you know, without feeling guilty, to be able to sleep better at night. We're all haunted by the images that we've seen. But if we can at least say, today I did something to try to stop it, then we're all part of this amazing and continuously growing and evolving movement that I consider to be the most important movement in the world, because we want to protect the most choiceless, the most voiceless. Of course, those are the animals. And once you start to foster love and compassion and respect for animals, it is a domino effect. If you teach children that, they grow up to be much better, kinder humans. We all know that serial killers start with animals. Animal abuse is prevalent when you find domestic abuse. The animals in that household are typically being abused as well. If we can foster from a very, very young age respect of animals, then I believe that, you know, future generations will be better for it, you know, as humans. So we're all connected. All of us are connected. And so if we just start with little things, do a tweet, right? If you've never done anything before and you're watching this, you know, look at the link and tweet Governor Newsom. If you feel like doing a little bit more, write an email to a legislator about something in your community that bothers you about animals. Show up at a protest safely, wearing your mask and social distancing. You know, consider making a donation to a group that you believe in what they're doing. Whatever it is, tiny little steps, you know, have giant strides once we get everybody collectively in this. And one more thing, which I think is really important. We need to connect all of the different groups that are trying to change the world. I don't believe you can be a feminist and not be vegan. It doesn't make sense. If we're against rape culture, if we're against bullying, if we're against, you know, taking female reproductive rights away, that is normal on every factory farm in the entire world. So we need to join the human rights activists, with the LGBTQ community, with the feminist community. We need to join them all together so that animals are included in that, because there's no greater, you know, group of sentient beings that are bullied more than animals, right? There's no greater body of sentient beings that are raped more than animals. So it's really important that we all connect the dots in that way and join together as a force for compassion and justice.
Like you said, one struggle, one fight, human freedom, animal rights, and it is all connected. And if people that don't care about animals, or don't even care about people, they care about themselves, they care about the earth being here in the future, you know, I mean, they have to care about something. And, you know, this affects all of us, you know, to the core. So hopefully people will wake up. We want to just show that slide one more time before we go off, to make sure people know that it's AB416, and they can tweet Governor Newsom. They can follow. Please. Yes, please do. And we're going to put that up at the top, directions at the top of the post right after the broadcast. So thank you so much for being here. Really enjoyed it. The time went by way too fast. Had way more questions, but that's for another time. And good luck with your plumbing and everything else going on.
And shout out to Lisa Carlin, doing so much better after her stroke.
Yeah,
she helped me produce every single one of my music videos.
I was gonna say, I saw the other one I didn't get to play where you were in the bar, so a lot of familiar faces. And Lisa, I remember working with you on that.
Every
Also,
one of them.
The bride one, I remember when she was working with you.
Every one of them, yeah. So yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, she suffered a stroke, a massive stroke, and she is fighting her way back. So pray
for her, please. Yeah. So she is in our prayers. Okay, well, thanks for being on, and folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. So bye for now.
Thank you.